A single-dad mechanic helped a stranded woman in a blizzard. He had no idea she was a cop. The wind howled like a warning. Snow slashed across the empty highway, swallowing tire tracks as quickly as they formed them. Daniel Harper tightened his grip on the steering wheel of his old pickup truck, squinting through the white blur ahead. He had one rule during storms like this: get home to his daughter. 8-year-old Lily was waiting at his neighbor's house with a bowl of tomato soup and too many questions about why snow never fell this hard in the movies. Since his wife passed 3 years ago, Daniel had been mother and father, mechanic and math tutor, bedtime storyteller and monster slayer. He didn't have the luxury of risks. And yet, as he rounded a bend near the mountain pass, he saw flashing hazard lights flickering weakly through the storm. A black SUV sat crooked on the shoulder, half buried in snow. Daniel's jaw tightened. "Keep driving," a voice whispered. "Roads are icing over. Lily needs you." But another voice, quieter, older, reminded him of something his father once said: "If you ever pass someone in trouble and do nothing, that becomes who you are." Daniel slowed the truck. "Just 5 minutes," he muttered. The wind nearly knocked him over as he stepped out. Snow crunched under his boots while icy air burned his lungs. A woman stood near the SUV, hugging herself for warmth. She looked to be in her early 30s, blonde hair partially tucked into a wool hat, cheeks flushed red from the cold. She wore a burgundy winter coat and thick scarf, but her hands trembled. "Are you okay?" Daniel shouted over the wind. "My engine died," she called back, "and I have no signal. I've been stuck for almost an hour." Daniel glanced at the swirling sky, popped the hood. Steam hissed upward as he lifted it. The smell hit him instantly. Overheated engine. "You ran it too long after the warning light came on," he asked gently. Her face fell. I think so. I was trying to make it to the next town." Daniel nodded. It wasn't judgment, just fact. "Okay, let's see what we can do." He worked fast despite numb fingers. Years of running his small-town garage had made him efficient. He checked the coolant reservoir, inspected the hoses, tightened a loose clamp. Steam continued to rise, ghostly in the cold air. The woman hovered nearby. "You don't have to do this," she said. "It's dangerous out here." Daniel shrugged. "Yeah, well, so is leaving you." She studied him, the worn boots, grease-stained gloves, the exhaustion in his eyes that only single parents truly carried. "Do you live around here?" she asked. "About 20 miles back. My daughter's waiting for me." "You stopped anyway." He didn't look up. I'd hoped someone would stop for her someday. That silenced them both. After 20 tense minutes, Daniel poured spare coolant from a jug he kept in his truck. He let the engine rest before attempting ignition. "Try it now." The SUV coughed, then roared to life. Relief flooded her face so quickly it looked like she might cry. "Oh my gosh, thank you. I don't even know how to." "It'll get you to town," Daniel said, "but drive slow and don't ignore warning lights." She gave a small, embarrassed laugh. He closed the hood and stepped back into the storm. "Wait," she called. "At least let me pay you." Daniel shook his head. "It's fine." She insisted, reaching into her purse. He stepped away. "Really, just get somewhere safe." For a moment she seemed torn between pride and gratitude. Then she extended her hand. "I'm Rachel." "Daniel." They shook hands, brief, cold, human. And then he walked back to his truck and drove into the storm. The next morning, Daniel stood in his small garage, flipping the sign to open. Snow had finally stopped, leaving the town wrapped in fragile quiet. Bills were stacked on his workbench. The heating system needed repairs. Lily's school had sent a reminder about an overdue field trip payment. He exhaled slowly. Kindness didn't pay electric bills. Around 10 a.m., a police cruiser pulled into the lot. Daniel stiffened. He ran through every unpaid parking ticket, every late registration he might have forgotten. His heart thudded as a uniformed officer stepped out. And then another cruiser arrived. Then a third. "What now?" he muttered. The first officer approached, tall and composed. "Daniel Harper." "That's me." Before he could ask anything else, a familiar voice spoke from behind the cruiser door. "Hi again." Rachel stepped out, but she wasn't wearing a burgundy coat. She was in full police uniform, badge gleaming, sidearm at her hip. Daniel blinked. "You're a state trooper," she finished gently. "I was driving an unmarked vehicle yesterday." His stomach dropped slightly. "I wasn't speeding or anything, was I?" She smiled. "No, you were." The other officers weren't stern. They weren't suspicious. They looked respectful. Rachel stepped closer. "I was transporting case files through the pass yesterday. That storm came in faster than expected. Dispatch lost contact with me for nearly an hour." Daniel's expression shifted. "You could have been in serious danger," she said, "if that engine had completely failed, if the heat went out." He remembered the way her hands trembled. Rachel swallowed slightly. "You didn't know who I was. You didn't ask for anything. You just helped." Daniel shrugged awkwardly. "Anyone would have." One of the officers shook his head. "No, sir, not everyone does." Rachel turned and nodded toward one of the cruisers. Another officer opened the trunk. Inside were boxes. Daniel frowned. "What's that?" Rachel hesitated, emotion flickering across her face. "I looked you up," she admitted. "Small-town mechanic, widower, single father." He stiffened slightly, protective instinct kicking